Alright, I just got done with the Comic Hero Show, and now it's time for Comically Speaking. So without further ado, let's talk comics! Welcome to this week's edition of Comically Speaking. I'm your host, Victor Nunley, and I am the Comic Hero, coming to you from a humble abode. Now, you're probably wondering why am I no longer wearing my polycystic ovarian syndrome themed Comic Hero polo. Well, earlier this week I learned that Miami Marlins pitcher Jose Fernandez was killed in a boating accident, and he was only 24. But I'm not going to talk about his death. I mean, that's already been done enough by the media. Instead, I'm going to talk about his story, about how he came to Cuba. I mean, how he left Cuba to come to the U.S. He didn't like Cuba. Of course, when you think about Cuba, you think about Fidel Castro, and when you think about Fidel Castro, you think about a bunch of innocent people being tortured and or killed. And Jose didn't want that life anymore. And 3 times he tried to leave Cuba, and 3 times he got caught. However, when he tried the 4th time, he did not get caught. He wanted a better life for himself. He didn't want to settle for some of the mistreatment that was going on in Cuba. You know, we hear so much about you know, the folks who live in Cuba being mistreated. But I mean, it's one thing to hear about it, but then when you learn that there is a person from Cuba who wants to leave there and come to America, then that's time you really need to start believing that there's bad stuff going on. But I'm not gonna go on about that. I'm just saying, I said that to say this. He wanted a better life for himself. He wanted the freedoms that we had. He didn't want some of their strict laws and policies anymore. He wanted no part of that. So when he left Cuba, he moved to South Beach, went to high school, played baseball there, graduated, and a few years later he was drafted by the Miami Marlins. He was drafted in 2013, and you know, this is kind of sad because he just became an American citizen last year. But he wanted a better life for himself, and guess what? He succeeded. Anytime you want to better yourself at something, when you know that the way you're doing things now isn't very productive and it's not getting you anywhere, and when you want to make a better life for yourself, just go ahead and do that, because that's what Jose did. Jose wanted a better life for himself, and that's what he did. We should all want better lives. And in observance, I made this Miami Marlins themed Comic Hero tee, and it has Jose's number 16 on the sleeve. Oh, by the way, I found out that his number 16 will never be worn by anyone on the Miami Marlins again. They're going to retire it. And to go along with it, this Miami Marlins themed hat, or this Miami Marlins hat. Excuse me. No, it's a hat. Here's. But I just want to offer some encouragement to Jose's family, all the players on the Miami Marlins, all his teammates, manager Don Mattingly, some of the coaches on the Marlins, everyone else in the organization, front office people, general manager and the owner, the city of Miami, and Miami Marlins fans everywhere. You know, he lived his life, and he lived his life the right way. And we should all try to live our lives the right way as well. And you know, and I'm going to go ahead and say this, and I'm not ashamed to, but I know it stinks that, he's no longer with us, but to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. And I know he is with the Lord. All right. Now then, let's talk about what shines. Now, last week, I talked about Sony and Valiant coming to agreement to come out with live-action comic book movies from Valiant. Well, I can easily tell you that right now, that the first two movies that are going to be coming out are Harbinger and Bloodsport. Now, Harbinger, for those of y'all who don't know, it was a comic book series that was created in the early 90s. It's a team of young superheroes with awesome powers. But the one character that stood out from all of them was the character named Faith. Now, Faith currently has her own book in Valiant. I read the miniseries. I've yet to pick up an issue of the current ongoing. But Faith, the one thing about Faith is that she is the first ever, or better yet, she is a plus-sized superhero. Not very often do you hear about plus-sized superheroes. Plus-sized villains maybe, but not superheroes. And my thing is, it works. I love it. I mean, we really don't. I think, as readers, or in terms of comics, really, that all these stick thin and physical specimens, whether it be male or female. I mean, we've had. I mean, it's starting to get old, and I think it's a great idea that we have a character like Faith who's plus sized, but some of her powers, she is a psionic being. She has psionic powers. Now, psionic powers basically means that she's a telekinetic. She can move things with her mind, and she flies. And she enjoys comic books like I do. Tell you, if Faith was real, I'd be dating her. And the other movie that's going to be coming out is Bloodsport. Now, Bloodsport is Bloodsport is currently a character who he was a military guy, but then he ends up, but then the U.S. government takes him in because they wanted a super soldier. And when I mean super soldier, I don't mean like Captain America like super soldier. Like, they pretty much wiped his brain and then pretty much made him into a killing machine. Now, there has not been a release date, nor has there been casting of any of these movies, but I can tell you right now that I certainly believe that it would be a no-brainer if they casted Rebel Wilson to play the role of Faith in the movie Harbinger. I mean, why not? And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm just saying that as a matter of fact. Rebel Wilson as Faith. Make it happen, Sony and Valiant. Or as some of my folks in parts of Franklin Parish, Louisiana would say, pull the trigger! Alright, that's it for what shines. Now then, let's talk about what stinks. Alright, now, the one thing that stinks is finding out about the passing of actor Bill Nunn. Now, who is Bill Nunn, you might ask? If you saw any of the 3 Spider-Man movies that were directed by Sam Raimi that came out in 2002, 2004, and 2007, he played the role of Robbie Robertson. And that's not the only movie that he starred in. He also played played a detective in the first Sister Act movie. But one thing about Nunn, when he played the role of Robbie Robertson, I don't care what anyone says. He played that role just as well as J.K. Simmons played J. Jonah Jameson. You can't tell me otherwise. But he'll sorely be missed. He's just a great actor, folks. I mean, he was a great actor. And yeah. All right, let's talk about what I've been reading. All right, one book that I'm really enjoying reading right now is Aquaman. In the opening story arc entitled The Drowning, Aquaman tries to connect with the surface world on his embassy to the surface world called the Spindrift Station. But in doing so, we find out that Black Manta shows up in the disguise of some reporter claiming to be from the Daily Planet, and he ends up killing a whole bunch of dignitaries and other military people. But this was only, and then just as he was about to kill Aquaman, he was like, "Go ahead, kill me. Then you'll be no better for when I accidentally killed your father." You see, when Aquaman was young, when he was just Arthur Curry, he accidentally shot and killed his father. And ever since then, Black Manta has been out for his blood. Well, he does it, and he ended up going into custody. But he later gets broken out by this character named Blackjack, who is the leader of a terrorist organization called Nemo. And they end up destroying a navy ship and sinking it all the way down to Atlantis. But who gets blamed for it? Not Black Manta, because they think he's in custody. Aquaman. And he ends up in prison in Washington, D.C. Mara tries to free him. And he does free himself, but at a cost. Now the U.S. military are bringing out the big guns on him. And that's as far as I've got. But it's a great read nonetheless. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Comically Speaking, and next week I will be here for episode 7. But I'm really looking forward to doing the 3rd anniversary episode of the Comic Hero Show. This show and the Comic Hero Show go hand in hand. The Comic Hero Show is where I give away free t-shirts and tell you who would win in comics fights, and then reveal books I buy every week, and just have a lot of fun. This show, I have a lot of fun on this one too, but it's mainly I talk about comics info and news. But right after I'm done doing the 3rd anniversary episode of the Comic Hero Show, which is episode 132, I'll come back here and do episode 7 of Comically Speaking. And I just want to say to all the players on the Miami Marlins who are watching, the family of Jose Fernandez, the manager of the Miami Marlins, Don Mattingly, all the coaches on the Miami Marlins, the front office people, the general manager, and the owner, and then all the fans of the Miami Marlins. As a matter of fact, one of them lives here in West Monroe, and that's my friend Brandon Ringo. Brandon, I know you're watching. And also the city of Miami, and also the city in Cuba where Jose came from. Let his life be the shining example of the way we live our lives. He didn't want to settle on what on what he originally had. He wanted to make a better life for himself. And he did just that. Now, he may have just become an American citizen last year, but as far as I'm concerned, he's been an American citizen since the day he got here 8 years ago. And again, to be absent from the body is to be present for the Lord, folks. Alright, I'm Victor Nunley on the Comic here. I'll see you next week for episode 7 of Comically Speaking. So till then, be safe, be blessed, be a hero, and go Marlins!